G'day, mate.
Konnichiwa, Yulan-san.
Aussies versus Japanese today in the Chocos in New Guinea. Oivi, New Guinea, 1942. Who picked what? Do you remember? Did you take the Japanese or did I take the Australians? I think you took the Japanese.
Yeah, I lost the previous one,
That's
so it was
right.
my choice.
Yeah, you took the Japanese. So I ended up with the Aussies. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages, I have foxholes, which can be good and bad, but I just set up between those two white lines. I would have preferred to set my foxholes up back to the left more, but I couldn't. I wanted to like surround the village, the huts, but I couldn't do that. So I kind of set them up in just in some dense jungle to cover. I had some concealment counters, and I could set up a squad leader and support weapon hip. Disadvantages, ELR2. Just in the last scenario, we did the AAR 4. You had ELR2. This is brutal at some points. It could just screw you really bad. Then I had the advantage of terrain, which may be one of your disadvantages for both, maybe. Terrain, trying to cover. There's lots of palm trees and dense jungle and stuff. And roar balance, 6 wins. There's not a whole lot of playings of this scenario on roar.
Yeah, advantages for the Japanese. Well, they're Japanese.
Yeah.
Good advantage to begin with. ELR 4, couple mortars with smoke, white phosphorus. The terrain, there's some pretty good cover. The terrain, I think, would also be kind of a disadvantage for the Japanese because, trying to cross the board, the extra movement cost for the kunai and the restrictions with bamboo and there's the swamps, the dense jungle. But no real disadvantage for the Japanese. Roar balance, 7 Japanese wins.
Yeah, pretty even with 13 whole playings. This was from a recent action pack. I would have thought there would have been more playings, but there aren't really. So for my defensive setup, for the Aussie defensive setup, your approach kind of gets funneled through 3 areas from what I could tell. There's that little lake or pond up at the north, and then in the center there's G6 there's swamp and marsh, and then at the bottom there's a swamp. So you're going to kind of come through the center or come through the G8 area, right? That was what I figured you were going to do. So I tried to set up assuming you were going to get funneled through those areas. And I had a mortar. I think the mortar is in the bamboo in J4 to try to cover coming through the palm trees and to save them if you did a bonsai charge. You can't really bonsai into bamboo. Other than that, I just spread my guys out and spread out my... I set up my hip, leader, and squad in G2 there, kind of a surprise for you.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, the Japanese they gotta control all the hut heck on the left there. So my plan of attack was pretty much to drive down the center of the board. I mean, it's 4.5 turns long, so not a lot of time. You don't have to go very far, but I was kind of toying with an idea of taking like one platoon kind of more along the top edge of the board through that kunai, but or at least use them as a feint, keep you from pulling everybody back, to leave a few guys to move across the top of the board. That's about it. I mean, well, I've got my reinforcements to come on turn 3, and I was going to wait and decide which way I wanted to bring them up.
Right. So here you go. You start moving on the south.
Turn 3.
Not south. What is that? Yeah, that is the south edge of the board. And I hold my fire with my guys there. I was thinking about letting that big stack in E or F1 move through and kind of get you in the back, but you moved a bunch of guys into that area, so I started taking some shots. And
Yeah, I was trying to cover a bunch of ground real quick. Kind of
Yeah.
jump on you there.
And yeah, that whole stack goes berserk when I defensive
Well,
fire.
yeah, your hip guys.
Yeah, you charge in, I final protective fire and roll snake eyes. So I kill them all, and then I heat a battle at the bottom there. I think the leader went heroic.
Yeah, that was one of my better leaders and 2 squads. So it was at that point I kind of like just decided to just bring everybody down through the center, the lower half of the board.
Hmm.
Forget about going across the top.
And at that point, I thought, oh, I made a nice killing blow to begin. I have the advantage at this point, but it eroded on me over the next, 3, 4 turns.
Yeah, kind of just I had the opportunity to kind of swarm around your 9-1
Yeah, they
on the
got
bottom there.
swamped there. Yep. And you took out my mortar crew already, broke them, so they're out. They were ineffective. I think I got one shot off, and they did nothing.
I always find it's kind of hard to attack with mortars. I mean, mortars are a good defensive tool, and they can be, I guess, a decent offensive tool. But lugging them around can be kind of a pain.
Yeah.
But it's at this point I've kind of run out of cover. I'm facing like across some open ground now, trying to figure out the best way to do that without losing, taking too many casualties.
Well, you popped white phosphorus. I had a fire base up in I-5 kind of to cover that area,
Hmm.
and you popped white phosphorus in there. And I passed my morale checks, but yeah, I was still covered in white phosphorus.
Yeah, that helped me.
And my guys in my little base in G2 got surrounded and circled. I think they broke and then were eliminated. They didn't last
Yeah.
long. They did get a killing blow, but it didn't last long.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for you to generate too much defensive fire.
No,
Kind of spread out a little bit.
yeah, I didn't get a lot of defensive fire off. And then, as you'll see, my fire base in I-7 kind of crumbles apart too. You get some nice shots off here soon.
Yeah, the mortars. I was able to get the mortars going. One of them went on a rate tear. He
Yeah,
was firing on your stack there with the white phosphorus. And,
yeah. You're moving across now under cover of my white phosphorus. I didn't have a whole lot to shoot at you.
mm-mm.
And even when I do get a good shot, I think I rolled like crap. Like you might have assault moved into the open. I can't remember in J3 there. I pinned him.
Yeah.
That was about it. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to at least fall back and set up another line of defense because my first line crumbled quickly. Yeah, and the movement costs for everything because some of the guys were in foxholes, so I had to get out of a foxhole and either move through dense jungle or kunai. So getting around was kind of a pain.
Yeah. It's hard to cover much ground in the jungle in the
Yeah,
PTO. Here, let's see. I'm loading up my reinforcements. I decided to bring them in along the north edge of the board, the top edge.
yeah.
Kind of crowding the bottom half of the board. So, and it's a pretty straight shot onto the board. Figured I'd cover some ground quick.
This is an error
And
I
yeah,
made. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, you didn't have anything back there
Yeah,
to shoot at them. So
exactly.
it's kind of
I
wide open.
Yeah, I should have. Well, I thought you were going to bring them on the south. That's why I put the units in O4, kind of at the top of that hill where the cliff is.
Hmm.
I should have put them on in O5 probably. Then I could have at least covered. Um, would have been hindered by the huts, but I could have covered them coming on somewhat. By the way, that overlay should be flipped to 180, but I think it had zero effect on the game.
Well, other than maybe the cliff edge,
Yeah, but
but
then maybe you would have come on the other side of the board with your
yeah,
reinforcements. I don't think it really had an impact.
no,
But you jumped in and you got 2 huts immediately, and I really didn't bring a lot of firepower to bear on you.
yeah. And you look at nobody wants to have a leader with a positive dice roll modifier, but actually with the Japanese, it's kind of a wash because the leader raises their morale level
Yeah,
1.
yeah.
So as long as you don't use them to really, to direct any fire.
You didn't name him though. You named your other guys Roll Low San and Roll Roll High San. You didn't name the
Yeah,
A+1.
yeah. I guess he would have been roll even, son.
Name them Boxcars. So I'm still. Let's see. We're on turn 3. I'm still holding on. I've got.
Yeah,
Well, you must have went on your rate of fire tear up in I7, and we missed it with your mortar. You broke all those guys,
yeah,
and that was my fire base. They were in white phosphorus, and then you ended up breaking them all on some incredible rolls.
yeah. I was kind of trying to find some way I could keep those guys from routing.
Yeah.
Destroy them through failure to route, but I didn't have enough units up there, and I just couldn't do it. So I just ended up forcing them to route again. But
So I rested that light machine gun away from one of the broken squads up there and took the leader around through the kunai into M8 to try to set up a base there and hope I could rally, which I did just then, rally something in there and set up a base back there.
yeah, that kind of made me nervous. 'Cause I had just a half squad in
Hmm.
oh oh 07, I
Yeah.
guess.
I was hoping to somehow jump into '07 at least and take that back from you near the end.
But yeah, I was able to move. I was able to get some guys in there to help cover that, and trying to come up with a plan to get those last 3 hut hexes, which I actually thought would be fairly easy, but I think the dice kind of cooled off on me here towards the end.
Yeah. So what happens here? I think I fire on the 8-1. Then I think they end up breaking and you route them back because I'm able to move into the huts in P3 where you are now, kind of out of sight from you. I forget what
Yeah,
happened. I think that yeah, I fired on them. They break. Yeah, but you're swarming me now. I'm hiding up in the huts on that hill there. I tried to jump out
yeah.
into N7 to get into O7.
Oh
Couldn't do
07.
it. Broke.
That was kind of lucky for me. That was yeah.
Yeah, you route back and I move in because I was afraid you would
Cuz it
bonsai up the hill.
yeah, at this point you're down to just that
Yeah,
last half
pretty
squad or whatever it
much.
was in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, miracle of miracles, if I can somehow get a bunch of lucky rolls and just get one, because you're going to jump into close combat probably, right? You're setting up for it.
Well,
I
and
was
you were
still
on
in it.
yeah, you were still in it because this is the last turn, and I
Yeah,
still had to get those 3 other hut hexes, and that hill really screws you up,
right.
doubling the MF trying to
Yeah.
get up there. And I didn't want to have to advance up and go into close combat. I'd be CX, so
Hmm.
I think I just went for like a big, massive fire group. I wasn't sure about that either because I didn't want to put everything on one dice roll, but
But it worked. They broke. I was
it
hoping
worked
I could
out.
hold on. You jump into close combat, and I at least tie you up in melee somehow. With really either I didn't really care what I rolled as long as I was in melee at the
Right.
end, but I couldn't survive your advancing fire. That was it. One squad holding the hut.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to go into close combat either because yeah,
Even though you would have had the
my
odds. Would have been like
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
three
Doesn't
to
matter. My close combat dice rolls are just infamously terrible. So
you would have lost your mind if you jump into close combat. I don't know, maybe ambush me or something, and you roll like boxcars or something. You would have lost your mind.
I would, yeah, totally lost my shit. That would have been over.
After all that, after just like decimating my Aussies, to not be able to take one single squad up in a hut.
Well, it ended up being closer than I thought it was going to be. I mean, when we started, I had no idea, but then probably halfway through, it's like really kind of desperate towards at the very end. But
Well,
it was a good scenario.
I think, well, the odds were clearly, I would have needed a miracle to win. That's all I was holding on to. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was mathematically in it,
Yeah,
just
there's
barely.
always a chance, right?
But yeah, I thought I started out pretty good, but yeah, things just kind of fell apart. And like the last scenario we played, the AAR we did, you were kind of on your heels after a certain point, and I felt like I was on my heels too. I was just kind of retreating and routing most of the game. Tail of the dice. You started out hot, then I got no. I started out. You started out bad, then you got a little hot, and then we flipped back and forth. But in the end, I didn't feel this wasn't a dicey game either.
You rolled a ton of sevens.
Yeah, you didn't roll any. No, I didn't roll any
Probably
12s.
all your route checks.
Yeah,
Uh,
I rolled no box
oh,
cars.
yeah, interesting.
Huh.
You rolled more snake eyes than I did too. Uh, More fours.
But yeah, overall it felt
Yeah, pretty
fine as
even.
far as the dice goes. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Play,
rolling average though. The rolling average has some ups and downs in it.
yeah. And it kind of swap back and forth as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fun little scenario in the dense jungle PTO. Where did
It
this
was.
place?
Yeah,
New Guinea was it? Yeah.
yeah. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for something quick and fun, and yeah,
Yeah, I think it feels balanced to me. Even though I was on my heels, I think I had a chance at the end to spoil it. Small, but I
yeah,
had a chance.
yeah. It totally felt balanced to me. I mean, it felt like the Japanese had a superior force, but at the same time, it was still, yeah, close game.
Yep, good game. We played this one because we're gonna do a bigger scenario next. We're gonna play Tropic Lightning, which is supposed to be a really good scenario from what I've read.
Sure, it's not Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, that's trademarked. You cannot call it Tropic Thunder. Tropic Lightning, Americans versus
Yeah.
Japanese. So we'll do that next time.
Cool.
Sayonara, Roland San.
Domo arigato,
Mr. Roboto.